Roux roasting is the method. Pastry cream is stirred custard. Working with fondant, working with chocolate, trying to get it neat. This guy, it's in the method and piping it, and then the dip is quick. The finish is very, very quick at the end. Okay. So what we need to do here, can you grab that water? Let's bring that water back over here. Right, is we need to be able to pipe this guy. All right, so with our ingredients, do they need to be scaled out correctly? Is that important?
Yes.
Yeah, you gotta have the right amount of flour, right amount of egg whites, right amount of everything. Okay, so once you have your ingredients scaled correctly, that's your first step. Making sure everything's good, right? I'm trusting the scaling out people to make sure that it looks good, right? Pastry flour is going to be structured, it's going to hold it together. All right, we're going to put air around the egg whites and the sugar. Okay, sugar is here. And we're going to thin it down with a little bit of our egg whites, and then we're going to add our salt in there. So stage 1 is here, stage 2 is here, and stage 3 is here. Light and fluffy is what we're trying to do. Trying to get everything together, trying to get it light and fluffy. If this is soft, it's going to take air. Okay? Powdered sugar, right, is called, otherwise referred to as 10x, so it's ground 10 times. Generally, it will make it spread a little bit, so you have some motion on it. The motion will be held together by the flour. We want to put air into it, so when we have air, we bring anything together, we want to sift our pastry flour. So we got 2 things that'll be light and fluffy. The stage 1 and the stage 3 will be light and fluffy. If they're light and fluffy, they go together. If they're not light and fluffy, it's like trying to mix feather and concrete. It'll go together, but it's very difficult to do. There's no chemical leavener in this one, so nothing's going to, like baking powder, baking soda, nothing's going to make this guy move as much. But we are going to add some air to it, so that's going to make it kind of go up and down. So this is pre-sifted, ready to go. Now we have to look at our tools for the job. Okay, we're going to mix this guy in a bowl. Okay, so we want to check to see how is our bowl. You guys want to check? Tell me, the hot or cold? Hot or cold? 3 people cannot be wrong, right? You guys agree? I agree. It's cold. So if I take my butter and I put it into here, it's going to make it cold butter. Right? How do I avoid that?
Warm it up.
Warm it up. How can I do that?
Then Marie.
Yeah, I can put steam into it. How else can I do it?
Just
yeah, I can put water in like that, so that's going to warm up my bowl. Could I put the bowl on top of the oven? Could I store them there? Yeah, if I was working somewhere, if you had the choice, not over there. What about friction? Do you rub your hands together? If I put everything in and I start mixing it with a bit of friction, that sometimes works. If I have friction and I also use something on the outside, like a warm rag, a heat gun, a blowtorch, a little sterno or something like that, so that would work as well too. But right now, if I take this water and I put it underneath like that, does that change things? It's hot, right? It's hotter now, right? It should melt the butter, right? But I'm going to put the butter in now, and the butter is soft, and the butter is in smaller chunks. So that's a very good move in order to make sure that the butter is going to get evenly incorporated. So I'm going to put the butter in on the bottom on the heat. Okay, and we're going to add the icing sugar, and we're going to start to mix this one around, okay? Like so. So I'm adding a warmer bowl. I'm adding a bit of friction. I cannot really over-mix this one. I can put air into it, but I can't over-mix it. When I'm going to over-mix, it's going to be the flour, okay? But I want this one to be nice and light and fluffy, okay? So the next thing I have to watch too is my next set. So set 1 is in. What about my eggs? Touch it with the inside of your wrist. Kind of cold. What do you guys think of your wrist? Cold. Cold, right? 3 colds. So this cannot be cold. I spent some time with the butter. I spent some time heating it. If I put cold into it, I'm back into harder butter. So I want to make sure that when I go in, maybe I warm this up a little bit. So this is a bit aggressive. This is almost at a boil. So I don't want to make my egg whites cooked here. I want to cook them in the oven. So I need to be careful with a small amount like that. But I want to keep everything nice and light and fluffy. Okay? We're going to use the larger tip for this one. We're going to scrape this down, okay? We want to make sure that everything is good to go. Vanilla. When you have vanilla, this is very expensive. So sometimes you're trying to get the vanilla out and you leave half the vanilla behind. If you can put the vanilla in with something else and measure it in with maybe your egg whites, now it's going to be able to come out of the bowl a little bit easier. Okay? So we'll get our vanilla in there. Salt. Use the salt treated as a dry ingredient. That's in there with the flour, or I can pop it in there. Either way. Okay? The next thing we want to do is we want to start to think about how we're going to pipe these 2-inch circles, right? 2-inch cookies from left to right is what we want. So you're all drawing stencils. If you drew a little bit bigger than 2 inches, you pipe on the inside of the circle. If you chose a little bit smaller than 2 inches, you pipe on the line or a little bit over. 2 inches, they want to be identical twins, okay? Don't make a 4-inch cookie and a 2-inch cookie and a 1-inch cookie. At the same time, for baking, for consistency, all your cookies are going to go on the same tray in the oven, out of the oven together. The last thing you want to do is be standing at the oven and say, oh, I got to take the small one out, and then I got to send it around. Now I got to take the medium one out, send it around. Now I got to take the big one out. That's a waste of time. Sometimes it's very difficult to do. You're going to burn 1 or 2 of them, right? So you don't want to do that, okay? So we'll have our bags ready to go, right? We'll have some parchment paper. Can you grab one parchment paper over there? Perfect, all right? And then do we have the demo circle? Did I leave that over there? The stencil? Is that over there? Is it underneath? 2-inch one? Perfect. Okay. Take that one, right? So this is a little shorter than 2 inches, and I pipe right on the line and it comes out to 2 inches almost every time. You can decide to pipe it this way if you want. You can decide to pipe it this way. Then you can use this again. Do not pipe it that way. What happens if you pipe it that way?
Sharpie.
You get Sharpie on every single cookie. It's not going to work, right? So I like to pipe it there like so. Okay? So this is starting to whip up. I whip this up for 6-7 minutes or so. You can decide to stop it and scrape it down, or you can decide to do this industry trick where I leave one side on, do it on its lower speed. Okay? And you can take, right now there's a gap between the whip and the bottom of the bowl. It's probably about that big. If I decrease that gap by holding on one side and lifting up the other, the whisk will go down to the bottom and start to kind of get that extra material that didn't do anything. So this is the only one that you can do it on because the whip will have a little bit of flex to it. If you do it on the paddle will not bend, the dough hook will not bend, okay? But if you don't do it right, okay, and you take both of them off, you're not paying attention, you do it on a high speed, if this thing flips off, which I've seen to happen, it goes around one time and the bowl kicks off and it hits you right in the stomach. And if you've ever had the wind knocked out of you, that's exactly what happened. I saw one guy, my first year of teaching here, I told him to do that, and I didn't go over it in detail. It flipped off, it hit him in this, and he knocked the wind out of him, and he went down, like, oh my God. The thing came back, and it took his tooth out.
Oh.
I go, oh my God, that's a bad day. All we're trying to do is scrape the bowl, so he never did that again, ever again in his life. You won't see that in any safety video. It's an industry standard. You know, if you're not comfortable doing it, please do not do it. Another way you can do it is to take a scraper and properly scrape it down. But sometimes you're at work or wherever and you're trying to do a million things, and time is money, and they'll say, go faster, go quicker, I need more. So you have to, put yourself safe first, okay? Don't hurt yourself, please, okay? But that is commonly done in the industry, okay? So that's going to be scraped down. We're going to get this guy nice and light and fluffy. It's going to go from like a yellow kind of buttery color to maybe a whiter color, a little bit lighter. Okay, we'll make sure that's on, and then we're going to think about going into our egg whites. But our egg whites again are cold still, right? And what kind of change them? They're cold. They're cold, right? So now I'm going to think about getting in my egg whites. I warm them and go in. Don't warm them and then put them back on a cold surface, and then warm them and then cold. You're not going anywhere. So warm them, go in. That's why I didn't do it in the beginning, okay? But now I'm thinking it's nice and light, it's kind of fluffy, it's pipeable, all right? So that's telling me I've got the butter whipping, I've got the sugar in, and I'm ready to go, okay? So in a second here, I'll just slightly warm up my egg whites. I don't want them ice cold. I don't want to be piping hard butter, okay? So I'm making sure I don't put my egg whites into a scramble, okay? Butter. There we go. So the egg whites are going to go in now. They're nice and warm. At stage number 2, we'll start to mix this around a little bit, start to scrape it, and then we're going to fold. I've got air here and I've got some sifted here. So I need to fold these guys together. I know on your recipe it might say switch now to a paddle. It's an extra tool that you've got to clean. It's an extra thing that you've got to reach for, okay? So I will take this one off. We'll put it here. Hopefully it doesn't fall out. Right? And then I will scrape this down, making sure all of my egg whites are starting to go in there. So I have a nice kind of a piece going on, right? So it looks something like that. This should be sitting at room temperature. This is actually a little bit cold. So the butter is going to start to set up. Probably I got to pipe pretty quickly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in about half of my flour, okay? And I'm going to start to mix this in because they've got 2 different consistencies. Something that's dry, light and fluffy, and something that's a little bit wet and light and fluffy. Once it goes in, again, I don't have any lumps. I'm about halfway mixed. I still see a little bit of chalkiness from the flour. It's not all the way mixed in. You know, it's almost there. Then I'll mix the rest in. So now it's going to be nice and even. The last little bit is going to go in, like so. And we will start to mix this together by hand. Whoops. A bit slower in the beginning so it doesn't go all over the place. Okay. And then we'll have a nice cookie. This is a basic cookie, piped shortbread. The gluten strands are short because we're not over mixing them. If I mix it along by the machine, the gluten strands become very long and becomes very elastic. And a tough cookie. This cookie should be very soft on your like mouthfeel. Okay, so it's nice and soft and it's pipeable. Okay, it looks something like that. Whoops, not full. Thank you. You can change the flavor on this. You put orange in there, lemon in there, different types of flowers and nut flowers and things like that. Okay. If you're putting in things dry, take out 10 to 15% of the flour and replace it with hazelnuts. Take out 10%, replace it with cocoa powder. You get chocolate one, right? So that's a possibility as well. All right. So now what we want to do is we want to start to pipe this guy before it starts to set up, especially if you're in a cold room. Thank you. All right. You got a little knife over here. We're going to cut the ends off of this guy. Okay. And we're going to put our tip in. Bigger tip. You guys have a number 849-ish. 845 is what Safe gave you. The large tip, come see me if you want, right? So again, you can be super cool and throw it in there. Hopefully you get a bullseye. If not, you replace it in, right? And make sure that your tip comes out to the edge. Cut a little bit short. So I'm just going to take a little bit more off of this one. Okay, there we go. And we have the prongs coming out, okay? So, let me grab one sheet tray. Is there one sheet tray over there as I roll this one up? Underneath the rolling pins, is there a sheet tray? You put your mix in to the bag. Okay. And I'll show you guys a couple of them, okay? There we go. So we're going to pipe these guys out. This cookie is known as a petit four sec, so a petite piece that is small, no refrigeration required. Okay, versus a petit four glacé, a petite piece that is glazed. So the angle is here. Okay, pressure. You notice I'm working with only a handful. If you try to work with this much, this part here is starting to get cold. So this part here that's in my hand, I'm starting to massage it, keeping it soft, and I'm keeping it warm with my body temperature. So I'm constantly, you'll see me doing this. So it's easy to pipe through, okay? So we go to pipe, we're gonna pipe around, oops, around, like that. And then the next one, pipe around, like that. Okay, so this one, this circle here is just shy of 2 inches. And if I'm piping around in it, it's allowing me to get a 2-inch shortbread. Okay, next one, stop, come right off, okay? And then next one, it's gonna move a little bit due to that icing sugar, right? You know, don't pipe, what are some bad examples? Well, there you go, chef, I filled the thing. Well, you know, you didn't go around. Don't do any soft serve ice cream or emoji poops. Right? Like, there you go, chef. Well, they're a little different, right? So you're trying to get them the same size. This is a guide, you know, to get you in the same neighborhood, right? It's still requiring pressure and motion. Doesn't matter to me if you go clockwise or counterclockwise, but it should be round. I'm going counterclockwise. Okay? Just my comfort level. So I'm going right around, pressure, motions, and stop. Okay? Something like that. We're going to bake them, keep them nice and light, a little bit of color. I'll timestamp them, so if they're relatively the same size, same shape, same mix, same way out, same everything, I'll put mine in and out of the oven, I'll let you know exactly how long it is, 12, 15, 18 minutes, so you know roughly. You're going for time, you're going for color on this one too. Lightly golden. If this looks like a hockey puck, everybody have a hockey puck? There's blue ones, there's orange ones. If you got a blue or an orange, you got problems with this one. But they're usually, the standard ones are black. So if you forget about them, a couple classes in a row have forgotten about them. They've left them in overnight, where I say check the oven to make sure there's nothing left. And in the morning we got hockey pucks. Or they go around too long, yeah, and then they're done. You can't do anything about them. You can't even turn them into crumbs. We want to keep them nice and light, okay? They will bake, they'll come out of the oven nice and soft, and as they cool down, they'll start to become a little bit firm. They will dry out a little bit. Great for tea service or afternoon coffees, things like that. A dried cookie, even with fruit and things around the holidays. But we're gonna make these this is just like the demo online. We're gonna bake them, cool them down, we're gonna dip them half in chocolate, put little sprinkles on top, done. This is an easy one to finish. It's more in the mix in piping the size is what they're gonna look for. So that's what they're testing you on, is can you pipe all the same size? Pipe one like this, great, and all of a sudden, it's not the same size, you don't have any control. If you don't like the size, scrape it back up, put it back in, do it again, right? You have to bake these today, right? You cannot make this shape and fridge it and then bake it tomorrow. The moisture will go into the flour and it won't work. It has to be all today. Okay? So you can decide, do you want to do this one first? Get it in the oven, get it out of the oven? Do you want to do that one first? Up to you. It's 2 o'clock.